It's a 3-minute animation which depicts 4 years of day-by-day news events picked by my peer group at NYU Abu Dhabi, painted on a canvas and then photographed in a stop-motion animation format.
Unnamed interactive film that lets the audience choose the story.
The inkjet aerosol generator for metal oxide nanostructures, which basically is a new way of nanostructure production.
I would say that I'm taking geographically isolated algae samples and I'm studying them and comparing them.
The nature of the relationship between Britain and the sheikhs of the Persian Gulf, focusing on the causes for the tone of that relationship and its impact on later developments in the region.
I'm measuring the effect of social environments on sexual identity formation.
To put it simply, it is a tiny device that will extract fresh water from seawater.
My film is called Adam, and it's about a man, a Syrian man who's living in Abu Dhabi, and his relationship to the Syrian conflict.
My capstone is called Dynamine. It's a collaborative piece written by Emily Egan and directed by Claudia and designed and dramaturged by me.
Basically what we do is we go into high schools in Abu Dhabi, we teach a health workshop on tobacco or physical fitness and nutrition, and we test the effectiveness with a post-workshop survey versus a pre-workshop survey.
So we are using the Kinect device as a gesture recognition system to record Arabic Sign Language and translate it into Arabic.
Developing appreciation for the arts within the city of Abu Dhabi so that when the museums that are coming to Saadiyat open, you already have a stable audience, or not stable, but a committed audience, I should say.
My capstone is on the social psychology of Filipino immigrant workers in the UAE, the contact theory and its effect on social identities.
Different factors that contribute or that influence labor force participation of married female migrants to the U.S.
It's a webpage that displays the lives of 3 Salvadorian artists that produced artwork during the Civil War in El Salvador.
I've built a Chrome extension which compiles all of your browsing habits over the course of time, and then it tries to give you an understanding of how the various third-party trackers are viewing your data and how they can make a lot of inferences based off of that data.
I'm doing a double capstone, so the film is called Aisha, and the novella does not have a title yet. Both of them deal with the subject of how to live your life in the face of death.
Remember Me. It's an immersive interactive theater piece around the subject of the hero.
It's basically a gesture recognition toolkit for the Microsoft Kinect for Windows.
I'm basically looking at the effect of school and family environments on students' cognitive achievement.
My capstone title is called Trust Over Convenience in Sharing. It looks at the sharing economy and the relative importance of trust and convenience.
Which sectors in emerging market economies help them to better survive the crisis in advanced economies?
My capstone is about de novo genome assembly and gene annotation of Chlamydomonas incerta.
It's trying to understand how the bacteria in the gut can make one fat by changing them through antibiotics or high-fat diet.
So, writing code to improve measurements of colloidal spheres using holographic optical microscopy.
My capstone is a 15-minute science fiction film that's based off of several key works of literature.
Deriving linguistic feature patterns using decision trees. Basically, I'm trying to figure out what we can know about a language given some other features of a language.
My capstone's an analysis of how different slave traders partnered together to form a network of investors.
What I do in my capstone is I grow human cells and I induce in different conditions to mimic the diabetes condition and then see how the genes are expressed differently.
It's about how a personal relationship between a doctor and their subject affects what's included in a biography and how it's received by the public.
I wanted to know what missing was, because I don't really understand. So I asked people, and I asked a bunch of different people in a bunch of different ways, and I have these 3 separate projects that all come together to ask one question.
It uses fruit flies, species of Drosophila melanogaster, as model organisms to study neurons and their optic lobes and compare these neurons using their physical phenotypes or characteristics.
I'm creating a finance app that can detect patterns on the stock chart.
the effect of migration and educational attainment in developing countries. In a sentence, it is exploring if there are any beneficial gains from migration on education in developing countries.
It's about volunteerism, who volunteers where and how in the Abu Dhabi community.
Philosophies and programs of CSR programs in the UAE. I'm looking at what is the current state of CSR in the UAE as well.
CGC, a devised project. It stands for Cleansing the Girls' Crisis.
The way FDI flows into 3 sectors of the economy affect economic growth in Kazakhstan.
Untitled. It is an interactive film based on second screen technology.
Documentary about the importance of the history of the UAE to the people in the UAE.
Capstone project is basically looking at how the extreme environment of the Arabian Gulf influences nematode diversity all along the peninsula.
Capstone is on triboluminescent materials in an ultrasonically levitated environment.
My capstone is directing Dynamine, which is about creating accessible and impactful theater.
I'm talking to Emirati students why they like Korean pop culture.
It is an emotional exploration of what it means to say goodbye.
My capstone is about urban farming in the city of Abu Dhabi, basically building a farm in the middle of the residential neighborhood and self-sustaining the city with vegetable and fruits.
I'm acting in an original play called Dynamine, and I'm playing the double role of Dynamine and Tinan Man.
I guess designing a drug delivery system using nanoparticle technology that can improve our chemotherapy drugs that we use today.
Measuring the uptake rate of cell-penetrating peptides, which are proteins that can get into the cell easily and are used for drug delivery.
I'm basically looking if the Russian stock market follows the same statistical trends as other developed markets and doing more precise mathematical analysis of those trends.
It's generally about storytelling and identity transformation in an evangelical Christian community.
Basically comparing the internal facial processing of populations that have had arguably greater exposure to covered faces, such as the UAE, compared to Caucasian populations that have not had as much contact to see if they process internal features differently.
My capstone project is in political science major, and it's on impact of civil war violence on education system in Nepal. So I'm looking at the different cases in public and private schools in Nepal, and I did a field research last summer, and right now I complete quantitative part, so that's my capstone.
It's about the ways in which communities of people make a place that is concerned with identity in public space and inform space with identity.
My capstone is studying social trends and volunteerism in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi.
I'm making a short psychological drama with elements of magical realism about the Georgian couple Sandro and Tina, who get lost in the desert of the Emirates and find out new things and changes happening in their relationship.
Separation of powers in Hungary. The project's title is Intertwining Powers.
Bacillus subtilis is a bacteria, and I'm analyzing the way that proteins and RNAs and things like that interact to basically make the cell.
A country that opens up its borders to trade affects the wages of its citizens, but how? And that's what I'm trying to figure out.
The differences between Western and Middle Eastern opinions about women who wear the hijab.
To what extent has trade liberalization reconfigured the Mexican economy?
My capstone project is titled The Not So New Kid, and it's about the UAE at the Venice Biennale.
My capstone looks at the differences between higher and low power groups in conflict and how they describe their motives through text.
Looking at how the Hungarian state is constructing Roma identity, and my argument is that basically unintentionally it creates a racial identity.
It is about meat and how meat is functioning in 3 different works of Canadian literature.
Racial identification's effect on depression, and I'm looking for 3 pathways that might lead to these differences.
Basically studying what Emiratis perceive the labor market is like and what they expect from it.
Basically, we're looking to find the origin of the date palm, and we're doing that through the use of basically DNA barcoding of different cultivars of the date palm taken from across its native range.
Economic contribution of Syrian refugees towards Jordan's economy.
Inter-European migration, trying to see what determines an individual migration patterns from east to west.
The effect of national savings on economic growth.
Essentially what I'm trying to do is to encapsulate proteins and by extension viruses in sugar crystals to protect them from heat.
Small material that could respond to external stimuli such as UV light, heat, and humidity.
I'm doing a cost and benefit analysis of the Gazira scheme, which is one of the largest irrigation systems in the world, on Sudan from 1911 until 1950, when they were under Anglo-Egyptian rule.
How we can infer the neuronal network structure based on spatial temporal spike patterns that we observe in the laboratory.
Automatic task pattern generation, ATPG. So basically it's a software that can cover the faults in the chips.
It's about the interplay between religious violence and cross-cultural exchange on the Mediterranean in the 17th century, mostly.
Special identity, creating a brand for a special needs school in the Abu Dhabi.
Recreating performance styles of Fastwaller, Eric Garner, and Art Tatum through computer programming.
We're working to improve science teacher education by bringing in everyday experiences for teachers and using them to help with the terms of physics.
The challenges faced by the church leaders of Chinese churches in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Dynamic effects that icebergs play on the open ocean water column.
The dehumanization of Arab headgear in both Western and Middle Eastern participants.
So we're trying to design a structure that can be deployed to the people displaced in different parts of the world, and the structure that we're aiming at should be deployed within 4 hours.
I argued against a solution to a problem that affects a theory about justified belief that says that your beliefs are justified only if they're formed by a reliable process.
My capstone is looking at how changes in fertility change the underlying sun preference, whether it intensifies it or it reduces it, and that effect can be seen on the gender differential in child mortality.
The prevalence of and attitudes towards performance-enhancing drugs and body supplements in Abu Dhabi.
How Chinese aid affects economic growth in sub-Saharan African countries.
It's called Audio, and it's basically vitalizing the music scene of Abu Dhabi through a music showcase.
Comparing similarity in origami crease patterns, and it's actually basically just that. I'm developing a metric to measure how similar two crease patterns are.
Hacking inkjet print cartridges to spray aerosol on a moving substrate to produce zinc oxide nanowires.
The effect of financialization on economic growth.
Language processing in Korean English bilinguals. What happens when you're processing 2 languages at the same time?
I'm developing as a capstone project rapid deployable structures, which is pretty much providing shelter in a fast and easy manner for refugee camp situations.
Exploration of the LGBT experience in the UAE using documentary film and narrative theater.
Women with a Turkish migration background living in Berlin and their opportunities for social mobility.
I'm analyzing non-monetary incentives for reducing electricity and water consumption.
My capstone is untitled with the subtitle Perspectives on Labor Nationalization in the UAE. I'm looking at assumptions about Emiratis in the workforce.
Characterization of the canopy architecture of the Shelia tortilis, the United Arab Emirates.
How remittances impact the use of public or private facilities in Pakistan.
Social media marketing in the aerospace industry. Pretty much what I'm trying to do is analyze different ways in which social media has impacted various industries, and then focus on the aerospace industry and show how new technologies can be leveraged for marketing purposes.
My capstone is predicting disease resistance genes in date palms.
It's just creating a portable seawater desalination system rather than the large-scale devices that are available right now for portable and personal and family use.
Conundrums and compatibilism, and it's about why we are morally responsible even if we could never have done otherwise.
The influence American Muslim voters have had on state and federal elections in Northern Virginia.
Creating a computer tool that can be used to generate test patterns that are used to test quality of microprocessor chips.
We are teaching health education classes to 9th grade students in Abu Dhabi.
When people want to travel, how does that affect the availability of roads and vice versa?
The relationship between the energy, the reduction in energy intensity of China and the fact that they have been importing more and more energy in the past 30 years.
I'm trying to study the effect of certain events in the Arab Spring that happened in Egypt on the Egyptian financial market.
My capstone is about Zanzibar, Arab rule in Zanzibar, and colonization by the British.
I'm trying to develop a new model to have a new estimation for Chinese GDP and then compare it with the official statistics.
My capstone is on the quality-quantity trade-off of fertility using data in India. And I'm trying to estimate the effect of the number of children in a household on the number of years of education for each child.
I'm looking at how people form their opinions retrospectively of presidents.
So my capstone project adapts a classic sociological concept used in the study of immigration in the United States to the local context of global migration in the Gulf.
It's going to be how euro, the money, affects the local politics in European countries.
The title is Self-Confidence in Information Processing, Experimental Methods and Evidence.
It's a play about Portugal's national poet based on his life and legends, and is about the choice he makes to save his unfinished manuscript over the life of the woman he loves.
Ideological and voting cohesion in the 7th European Parliament. And one sentence that describes it pretty well, I think, is that unfortunately coercion is more important and works better than ideology.
So if you heard about the Higgs boson discovery recently, I'm trying to improve two measurements of the boson, which are called spin and charge parity.
New Delhi, India.
From
Taiwan.
The United States. Canada. Turkey. I am from Seattle. I'm from Abu Dhabi. Ethiopia.
I'm from outside of Philadelphia.
Minnesota. The United States of America.
I'm a Kenyan.
I'm from Abu Dhabi.
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
I'm from Russia.
California in the United States.
Moscow, Russia.
I'm from Iran, born and raised in Thailand.
Hungary.
Flagstaff, Arizona.
Hungary. From Seattle.
Denver, Colorado.
The USA.
I'm from South Korea.
Rochester, New York.
Jordan. I am from Abu Dhabi.
I'm from Sofia, Bulgaria.
Lahore, Pakistan.
I'm from the United States. Canada. Syria.
From Palestine and the United States.
Hungary.
Palestinian Filipino, but I live here.
Korea. From Mexico City.
I'm Jordanian American, but I was born and raised in Abu Dhabi.
Hungary.
I'm from Colombia.
From Canada.
From the US.
Plymouth, Massachusetts. Bolivia.
South Korea.
I'm from Ethiopia.
New Jersey.
I'm from the US.
I'm from Washington, D.C. in the United States.
I'm from Thailand.
I'm from China.
From the UK.
I'm from the United States.
I'm from Argentina in the US.
The US. United States.
I'm from New Delhi, India.
I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. From Lebanon.
Colombia. From Korea.
Nigeria.
I'm from South Africa.
China.
I'm from South Korea.
India. I'm from Ethiopia.
United Kingdom.
I'm from Korea.
I'm from Guatemala and El Salvador.
From the USA.
From Ecuador.
I'm from Indonesia.
I'm from Canada/Germany.
I'm from Russia.
The USA.
I'm from Santiago de Chile. South Carolina in the United States.
Pakistan, but I grew up in the Middle East.
Brazil.
I'm from Argentina.
The United States.
Ethiopia. I'm from the capital.
I'm from Egypt.
I'm from Russia.
I'm from Australia.
I'm from the US.
I'm from Kazakhstan.
I'm from Tanzania.
I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
I'm from the United States.
From the United States.
California in the US.
From Morocco.
I'm from Jordan.
I'm from Sydney, Australia.
I'm from Adelaide, Australia.
I'm from the US.
I'm from the United States.
I'm from Vietnam, Saigon.
From Georgia and Russia.
Prescott, Arizona.
I'm from Mexico.
I'm from India.
United States. I'm from Plymouth,
From
Minnesota.
China. From the USA.
I come from China.
Australia, Korea, both.
I'm from the UAE.